Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our fourth and final in this series, OLLI and Jackson County Library Services sponsored lecture, Your Library Services. Tonight, the Library Director, Kari May, will present that topic for us, Your Library Services Structure and Funding. And then following her presentation, John Schuyler, OLLI Council President and also OLLI Instructor, will introduce OLLI at SOU. We want to again thank OLLI for allowing us to partner with this program to get out the information on the library, because as we've said, that's what we love to do is talk about our libraries. So thank you for giving us that opportunity. And as we've noted on our previous lectures, the lecture won't have a live Q&A or a chat, but you can use the Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your Zoom interface to leave a question or a comment. And then if you have left a question, you'll be emailed the answers to that following the series, as well as after tonight and in the coming days, you'll get an email of all of a video of all of the lectures. So now I want to introduce, again, Library Director Kari May with Library Structure and Funding.
Thank you, Eric. And I'm going to do that magic thing where you share screen and it works just fine on the first try. So we're going to go for that. So let me start the presentation. Are you seeing presentation like you think you should? All right. Well, thank you and welcome everyone this evening to our final of this series about the Jackson County Library District and Jackson County Library Services. As Eric said, I am the library director here for Jackson County Library Services. I have been at Jackson County for almost 7 or just over 7 years now. I have over 25 years of experience in libraries, mostly in Colorado at 2 different library systems there. And then I was at the state library in Utah, serving public libraries across the state of Utah as a kind of leading the consulting team there for about 3 years before coming here to Southern Oregon. I really am passionate about libraries and the work that libraries do in our communities. And I believe that we're an important part of any community that I've been a part of. And here in Jackson County, I know that our communities really value our library services. So this is just a brief overview of what we're going to do today and what I'm going to talk to you about. First, we're going to talk about that organizational structure of Jackson County Library Services, how we got a brief history of how we got where we are today, and what it means to be a special district in Oregon. I will then talk about the funding structure, how the library is funded both through your property taxes and then also through our foundation and friends groups that are important partners to our success. I'll tell you a little bit more about how all of that fits together, and then I'll hand things over to our partners at OLLI with John Schuyler, who will tell you all about OLLI. Well, not all about it because we only have an hour tonight, y'all. So the library district. This map here represents the service areas of each of our 15 branch libraries. Our branches range from our smallest branch up in the Butte Falls area, which is about 1,500 square feet, serves a population base of 400. Fun fact, that library was a drive-through hamburger joint in Medford that was driven up to Butte Falls on a flatbed truck in the early 90s and renovated into a library. So I don't know how many libraries you have been to that used to serve hamburgers, but we do not serve fries with our books, unfortunately. Our largest branch is the Medford Branch Library. It's an 84,000 square foot building that anchors the downtown area in Medford. And that branch also serves as the administrative headquarters for centralized receiving and processing of library materials, our support services such as IT and collection development and facilities, as well as our administrative services, HR and finance, and our outreach services that are out in the community. So here's a very brief Cliff Notes version of our story. Countywide services date back to 1920. We were a department of Jackson County until 2014, when voters passed a ballot measure to form a special district. In 2000, voters passed a bond measure to construct or renovate all 15 branches in the system. That construction happened between 2004 and 2008, a very busy time for us. When the bond measure was paid off in 2020, the county then signed over all of that ownership of those buildings to us. But to give you a little more detail on that history, the first Jackson County Library System was created in 1919 when the Medford Library Board contracted with the county to serve as the hub for 8 other branch libraries. And those 8 founding libraries were in Rogue River, Jacksonville, Talent, Central Point, Butte Falls, Gold Hill, Eagle Point, and Sam's Valley. And don't worry, there is no pop quiz at the end. Medford, serving as the central library, would be the hub for book processing and distribution of materials, much as it remains today. All county residents were able to check out books from any of the 9 library locations free of charge. Branches were open at least twice a week, with a total hours of not less than 6 hours every week, allocated on a case-by-case basis, depending on the location. Jackson County Library Services, as it is known today, was established in 1970, and at that time marked the return of the Rogue River branch, which had left the system in 1958, and the joining of the Ashland City Library. So please note, if you've driven by Ashland, you'll note that the building says it was built in 1912 as a Carnegie Library. The reason why Jackson County services don't date back to 1912 is because Ashland was not part of the countywide system at that time. They didn't join until the 70s. Plans for the beautifully and adequately sized library branches started in the 70s and 80s, but efforts at funding fell through, and those plans were drastically reduced. And when new structures were built in White City, Gold Hill, Talent, Phoenix, Eagle Point, and Shady Cove, those were on a smaller scale than the original plans. The Rouge Branch Library joined the system in 1986, and Applegate in 1996 was the final library to join the Jackson County Library System, which brings us to the 15 branches that we have today. And then we passed a bond measure finally in 2000 to renovate or reconstruct all 15 branches in our system. But as you see from this headline, at that same time, the operating expenses were zeroed out of the county budget. So the county budget was facing a budget shortfall that just about equaled the amount of money that it took to run a library system. And so they made the very difficult decision to close all 15 branches of our library system. At the time, we became, I'm going to say, famous for becoming the largest library system in the country to shutter library services entirely. Our libraries remained closed for almost 6 months in 2007. That was not a popular decision with our residents, as you might imagine. The county did their best. They tried to find a solution to reopen library services, and they contracted with a private company to run library services and we reopened our doors in October of 2007. That company, which is now known as LS&S, operated our facilities from 2007 until 2020. When we reopened our libraries in 2007, it was with drastically reduced hours of service as well as reduced services. But if you harken back to 1919, when our base library service was 6 hours a week, we were definitely doing more than that, even in the 2000s. But the local community was galvanized by this shuttering of our library services, and a grassroots effort formed to create a special library district or a special district, which would guarantee funding for the libraries into the future and help avoid the threat of future library shutdowns because of funding. So that bond measure successfully passed, in May of 2014. That year, the newly formed library district renewed the contract with the private company LS&S because it's, you know, I wasn't here at the time, but I hear it's pretty hard to start a new library district. So, you know, the folks on as part of the effort realized that they couldn't do everything all at once. And so they renewed the contract with LS&S. It was renewed as a 5-year contract. So we remained under that contract until 2020. If you all remember 2020, it was not an easy year. There were a couple other things going on that year. So we did our best to figure out how to bring all of our staff over and have them employed directly by the district by July 1st of 2020, as well as bring in some new departments. Both HR and finance had been part of either other county departments or under LS&S. Those were centralized with the parent company offsite. So we brought in new staff, we brought all the staff over, and we were able to start library services employing libraries staff directly as of 2020. June 30th, 2020 was also the date that the bond measure was paid off at the county. And so the county was able to sign over the ownership of all 15 branches to the library district as well. In the past 5 years, we have basically doubled the size of our staff. We had to bring in those departments, as I said, and then we also expanded our library service hours by almost 37% in April of 2023. Again, that was something that as soon as I got here in 2018, people are like, look at our beautiful new buildings. We just wish we had more hours that they were open. And, you know, I totally agreed. And it just took some time to be able to get to a place where we could do that. Today, we have nearly 200 staff who run our 15 branch library system. So the primary source of revenue for the library district is a mill levy on your property taxes. When the district was formed in 2014, that collection rate was set at a maximum of 60 cents of 60, excuse me, meaning that 60 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation on your property tax. For the first 10 years, the library district collected at a 52-cent rate. So we were collecting less than that maximum that we were allowed by the voters. In 2025, so with the last budget year, we did increase and started collecting at the full 60 cents per assessed valuation. It's complicated. I'm happy to answer that question if there's more that you all want to know about that collection rate. The library adopts its budget annually, and our budget year, like other local governments, city and county governments, is July 1st to June 30th. During the budget process, which begins usually in February, but I'll be honest, I'm always thinking about the budget. Staff uses the strategic plan and strategic goals as a guide and works with our board to determine our funding priorities. We hold a study session in March with the budget committee, and then we present the proposed budget to the committee in May. The budget committee, by statute or law, is comprised of the 5 members of the board, as well as an equal number of citizen members. So 5 citizens, 5 board members. And if you all are interested, we will have a couple of seats open on that budget committee at the end of the year. So if you're interested in getting involved, we do have that opportunity. At the May budget committee meeting, they approved the budget, including the collection rate for mills that have been approved. And then once the committee approves the budget, then it goes to the district board and we hold a public hearing. And then they approve the budget by resolution before the end of June. We are statutorily required to have a budget approved before the end of our current fiscal year. So that usually means the June board meeting. The county collects our property taxes for the library and for all the other special districts in their jurisdiction and any bond measures that are passed as well. They then distribute those allocations to each taxing district within the jurisdiction. A majority of our property taxes are received in November, as those of you who are homeowners are well aware, I'm sure. So this means that with our budget year starting in July, we need to have sufficient reserves on hand in cash to be able to operate our library system until those revenues are received in November. The district has a policy to keep that beginning fund balance equal to 4 months worth of operating expenses. At this time, our beginning fund balance is well within that policy. So as you can see on this slide, our current budget is approximately $18 million in the general fund, as well as funding in our capital improvement fund and the grants fund. So in our general fund, that is where, again, a majority of our monies are and what we expect to spend for library services. As you can imagine, running 15 branch libraries is not cheap in terms of staff hours. So a majority of our budget, I would say around 70% of our budget is in staff salaries and related fringe benefits and taking care of our staff who take care of you at our branches. Another important part of our budget as a library is our collections. And so we strive to spend between 8 and 12% of our budget annually on our collections, so both our physical and our print material collections. Our capital improvement fund, which is the $2.3 million that you see on the slide, that is money that we have taken out of our general fund and set aside for future building projects. So during the first 10 years that we've been a library district, we have set aside those funds for deferred maintenance projects such as carpet replacements, updating our HVAC systems, the heating and air conditioning in our buildings, new roofs, the important stuff. We got to be able to keep our buildings fresh and something that you all can enjoy as patrons. And then the final fund bucket that we have is our grants fund. So that is the funding that we receive through our foundation and our friends organizations. And I will talk about those in just a moment, but I do want to back up and talk a little bit more about what it means to be a library district and a district in general. And in the state of Oregon, I just forgot what state I'm in for a minute there. Sorry about that. So a special district is what Jackson County Library District operates as, and a special district provides specific services to a defined area. So that would be your fire protection district, water, healthcare, vector control, and libraries. According to the Special District Association of Oregon, there are 34 different types of special districts in the state and approximately 900 special districts across the state of Oregon. For Jackson County Library District, the defined service boundaries are the same as the county boundaries. So it's real easy for us to know if you live in Jackson County, you get Jackson County Library Services. There are other places where the boundaries are different. There may be a service district that covers more than one county or that doesn't cover all of the county. So our neighbors in Josephine County, for example, the Josephine Community Library District is a subset of the county boundaries. So they actually have a map that when you go in to get a library card, they're like, do you live in the district or not? And so if you do not live within the special district, you are able to join and get library services if you pay a fee. So here in Jackson County, we have set that fee at $100 per year, which is kind of the average amount that a property tax holder pays in property taxes to library services. A special district has its own dedicated funding from property tax, and that's that 60 mils per $1,000 of assessed value that I mentioned earlier for us. And the monies that are collected can only be used by the special district to provide the services it says it will serve. So that protects the money that we take to continue to provide library services in Jackson County. And it provides more security for the future funding of the organization than it does to be in competition with other city or county departments for libraries that are part of a city or county system. And that's not a judgment call on whether libraries are or aren't, but that is, you know, the choice that, or the power that the citizens of Jackson County gave us in 2014 when the district was formed, that gives us that protection against future possible funding cuts from that. So thank you for letting me back up and provide that information as well. So in addition to our the general fund that I talked about, which, you know, it ends up being 95% of our overall budget comes from that dedicated mill levy, and that, you know, that's very significant. But there are things that the library couldn't do without the support of our foundation and friends organizations. We rely on them to help us provide enhanced library services that are not possible through the general operating budget. So first, I want to talk about the Library Foundation. Our foundation was created in 1982 and was incorporated as a 501c3 in 1993. Our foundation started with a large bequest that kicked off a fundraising campaign to fund the building of a new library in Medford, along with the renovations and new buildings for the other 15 branches. As you know from earlier in this presentation, some of those earlier efforts to pass a bond measure to build the new facilities failed, and then they finally succeeded in 2000. So those first 10, 20 years that the foundation was fundraising, they were, you know, hoping that there would be that public support as well. And so in 2000, when the bond measure passed, they really hit their stride and helped fundraise for all of our 15 branch locations. And if you've been in any of our branches, you've seen rooms named after individuals or local foundations and other granting entities. That's part of that fundraising effort, both from the foundation and our friends groups that I will talk about in a moment. But following that big push to build all of our libraries and have that major capital campaign push, our foundation kind of languished for about a decade. They're like, we've done this, now what do we do? And so that was a kind of I'm gonna say a dormant period for our foundation. They largely maintained an endowment that we have at the Oregon Community Foundation, and they hosted a couple of events. Several of the foundation board members were instrumental as volunteers advocating for the district when the district was formed in 2014. But fundraising was not a strong component of their mission until the district adopted its current strategic plan in 2021. That's not to say they weren't still doing things and they weren't still in our communities, but once we had a new strategic plan and they knew what they were fundraising for, it was much easier for them to go back out into the community and ask for support for the libraries. Some of the major projects that our foundation has funded in the last 5 years include our mobile technology van, DART. You may have seen it on the road. It is itself a mobile hotspot. It has a satellite mobile hotspot on it that anybody who comes within 300 feet of the van itself can access internet access from the van. It is also equipped with a printer and some laptops and tablets, technologies that you can use on the van. And we do take that out and around in the community. That was funded both through the foundation and through a grant from the state library through the ARPA funds, which is the recovery funds after COVID. I used to know what ARPA stood for, but way too many acronyms these days. So technology in general is an area that the foundation helps fund and helps enhance what projects we can offer and programs through the library that we offer. Another funding area for the foundation is early literacy. We have a program called Baby's First Book that originated with the Ashland Friends of the Library in partnership with the Ashland Community Hospital. And it was so successful there. We started thinking about how can we bring this to the whole county, and our foundation graciously stepped in and helped lead that program and made that a system-wide, county-wide program. And just 2 years ago, we published our own book. So we now have A Baby's First Book, A Rogue Reader, which was commissioned by a local author and artist for us to distribute to every newborn in Jackson County. So we partner with the 3 hospitals and birthing centers across the county to provide a book to every child born in Jackson County. The foundation also supports the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. We are in year 4 of being a partner with DPIL, and this program provides a free book to every child in Jackson County between the ages of 0 and 5, regardless of income or background. All you need to do is sign up. The parents need to sign up their child for that program, and they will receive a free book every month for a year, or for 5 years. The third area that the foundation supports is building enhancements. So that is, again, we have beautiful libraries. They've been well maintained, and sometimes our community priorities change or how people use the library change. And so we need to make renovations or improvements to our libraries. The foundation right now has been fundraising and helping with some grant writing and received grants for us to do a pollinator garden at the Phoenix Library. So we are going to go out for an RFP at the beginning of 2026 and hope to be installing that new project in Phoenix in the spring of 2026. And, as we move forward into the future, there will be other similar capital projects or building enhancements that we expect to work with the foundation to fundraise for. The final area that the foundation has, major projects that the foundation has funded, is our Rogue Reads community reading program. So that is an annual program that we are entering into our 6th year of bringing in a major author to bring the community together, reading the same book, having programs around that theme of those books as well. So look for some of those programs to hit this winter in December, January, February. Another area where the foundation supports the library, or the way that the foundation operates, is through bequests. So when people pass away, they leave us money in their wills, and those funds are managed through the foundation. So we really appreciate that generous support. It's not something that we can rely on in terms of knowing when those funds will come to us. But there have been several bequests over the last, I would say, good 10, 15 years that have allowed us to provide some enhancements to some of our facilities. There was a bequest for the Central Point area that we used to create what we're calling our Spark Space, which is a creativity and STEM center for youth. And there have been a couple others at other branch locations. The other funding arm or fundraising arm is our Friends of the Library. And I feel like I should spell friends with more S's on it, because we don't have just one friends in our system. We have 12 friends. So at one time we did have a friends organization for each of our 15 branches. Some of our smaller branches just didn't have sufficient local volunteer support to be able to sustain a friends organization. Doesn't mean that there's not still avid supporters in all of our communities, but our friends groups primarily fundraise and support local activities at their branch library. And that includes things such as special programming or programming that happens in the branch. They will sometimes do staff appreciation. They will help with some furniture upgrades within the branch, things that directly impact their local branch library. whereas the foundation as an organization is looking at system-wide things and things that may have a broader impact on library services across the system. Through all of our funding sources, we are committed to being able to provide quality services and programs at all 15 branch locations. And we truly couldn't do it without the support of all of our friends, foundation, library users, all of it working together to provide excellent library services in Jackson County. Our friends groups primarily fundraise through book sales. Many of them also, they do charge a membership fee to belong to the Friends organization. The Friends of the Medford Library operates the bookshop out of the Medford Library. Many of you may have been there as well. And so one of their perks of being a friend of the Medford Library is special discounts in their bookstore. And so that has helped them increase their membership. Several of our other branches have an ongoing bookshop area in the branches. Those are not staffed in the same way that the Medford Friends staff their bookshop. And I will note, they staff it entirely with volunteers. All of our support organizations are entirely volunteer run. And, we get the generous support of people's time and talents, as well as the monetary gifts that we receive from different organizations. Our friends work with their branch manager of their local branch to determine where those funding needs are. I know I talked really fast and gave you a lot of information. I could talk for much longer about the library. I really just appreciate so much our community support across Jackson County. When I came here for the first time during the job interview in 2018 and visited many of the branches, I was immediately impressed with how well maintained our facilities have been over the last 15, 20 years since they were constructed, and also just how enthusiastic our community support for our libraries is. And I knew it was a place that I would enjoy working and leading here in Jackson County. So I hope this has helped you all understand a little bit better the funding structure, the composition of the library, and we'll be happy to answer questions that you all send later. So, and you have my email address there. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly. And now I will hand things over to John Schuyler to talk about OLLI.
Well, hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm John Schuyler with the OLLI at Southern Oregon University. OLLI is an acronym standing for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. It was started by Bernard Osher, who's still alive in his 90s, and he really wanted to see continuing education for adults across the country. So, we're a member-driven educational community, primarily serving people 50 and better. We're in Southern Oregon, we're in Northern California, and because we have some online courses, we even have people that live out of state taking our classes. Nationwide, there's over 120 OLLIs. So we're very glad to be one of the ones here in Oregon. Also in Oregon, University of Oregon has an OLLI, with a campus in Bend. We're a community of enthusiastic and curious learners. Some of the areas that we have courses in are art, history, literature, science, movement, nature, just to name a few. We also have a number of standing committees helping us function in terms of reviewing course proposals, doing events such as our annual open house that we have in August. So it is really a great community of both learners and volunteers. As I mentioned, we have both in-person and online courses. We have our own little campus here on the Southern Oregon University called the Campbell Center. That's very nice, with a number of classrooms with a very good technology. We also have courses at the Rogue Valley Manor in Medford and the Higher Education Center in Medford, working with the community college there. We have a low membership fee that covers courses throughout the entire year. Especially when compared to other OLLIs across the country, we're a pretty good bargain, and we're very proud of that. And besides in-classroom courses and some movement things such as dance and pickleball, we're starting to look at travel and adventure options. We've done some regional travel, but we're also looking at some international travel for our members, which is pretty exciting. To wrap it up, our saying is come for the classes, stay for the connection. Again, we're a great community of older adults that enjoy learning together. If you want more information, we have a great website where you can peruse our catalog or go to one of the different places that has the printed catalog available. So again, I want to thank the Jackson County Library Services for being such a great partner. These were 4 wonderful webinars. I learned so much. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that information, and Kari as well for presenting. And thank you all for listening and for attending these last 4 lectures. As John mentioned, we've enjoyed presenting them to you. And again, if you have a question for tonight, or if you have a question on any of the previous lectures, go ahead and put that in the Q&A while you have time, and we will definitely get those answers out to you. So we'll wrap up tonight. Again, thank you very much.